But I know that today what we're going to see are some wonderful TEDx speeches. Your teachers have just bragged all over you about all the great things that you did and the topics that you chose. So we're looking forward to a great morning of speeches this morning. You're going to do a great job, and we're all looking forward to it. We're going to be taking these, so not to put any extra pressure on you. Thank you so much, guys. Good luck.
Okay, so we have 10 contestants this morning, and the speeches are supposed to be between 3 and 5 minutes long. And we have 3 judges here. We have Ann Pavilion, Jennifer Niles, and Kim Olson that will be judging your speeches. And here's the mic on. Okay. Any questions before we get started? Okay, so first up, we have Kaylin Day.
I see the ads, I buy the products, I do everything they do, but somehow I still don't look like them. But what you don't know is that they don't look like them either. And we can easily give all the credit to Photoshop. Photoshop is used to digitally alter a photographic image using editing software. But because many beauty or modeling companies use Photoshop, women are deceived by these pictures. This is why Photoshop in commercial publications should not be allowed, because it promotes unrealistic body expectations for women. First, Photoshop creates untrustworthy advertising and gives unrealistic expectations for what the product will make you look like. According to debate.org, Photoshop gives us a wrong idea of what the actual model looks like, therefore promoting a body image that is near impossible to attain. By no means am I saying all Photoshop creates these unattainable expectations. Photoshop can make the smallest difference to the largest difference, such as making your head larger than your waist. But the part that makes it untrustworthy is the fact that you cannot tell what changes have been made, and what are the differences between the original and the Photoshopped. According to hercampus.com, every single day we view an ample amount of Photoshopped pictures that influence our perspective of reality and what beauty really is. Even though we know deep down the photos are altered, we are unaware of the magnitude of these changes. Next, Photoshop is unhealthy and leads to many future problems. According to the U.S. National Library of Medicine, dissatisfaction with body image and unhealthy eating behaviors are important issues. In one study, 44% of adolescent girls believed they were overweight, and 60% were trying to lose weight even though they were in the normal weight range for their age. Being a teenager is already one of the hardest stages for a person to go through. It is a time when people are naturally uncomfortable with who they are, and instead of companies catering to teens to help them feel confident, they use Photoshop, which puts even more pressure on them and lowers their self-esteem. According to ncbi.nih.gov, 264 studies concerning eating disorders were tied to Photoshop media exposure and being insecure about body image. 264 studies is way more than enough to show companies and us people that Photoshop needs to go, and we need to be putting in the efforts to stop it. The efforts we are putting in now just aren't working. They need to be more strict and effective. For example, CVS Pharmacy wants to end touch-ups of beauty images in its marketing campaigns by 2020. But does it really take 2 years to print pictures and just accept the natural beauty of the model and not Photoshop it? According to marketingcharts.com, Congress passed the Untrustworthy Advertising Act. It states that if a consumer is not given a product that was shown, or rather something far off, it is illegal. But what does the government consider far off, and what impact is this really making? As you can see, Photoshop should not be allowed in commercial publications. Not only does it create false expectations for the product and the consumer, it can create many problems for adolescents. So the next time you see an ad or magazine, hopefully you'll be seeing their natural beauty and who they really are, rather than what Photoshop has made them become.
All right, so next up we have Dylan's study.
So I'm sitting in the floor of my living room, and I just hear this quote come up while I'm watching a movie with my family. Meanwhile, you have simultaneous epidemics of hunger and obesity. So now, of course, my mind starts running at 100 miles an hour because that's the way it works, and creates this image in my head. So you wake up to the great smell of pancakes, eggs, bacon, sausage, hash browns emanating from the kitchen. And then you see your mother has made you this breakfast. So after you gorge out on that, you head over to the mall with your friends because that's what the teens do. And then, so after you're at the mall for a while, you start getting hungry, so you go get some pizza. And so you eat your pizza, or like 2-3 slices, and then you head out to the mall. So you're coming home. So as you get home, you smell the smell of burgers on the grill. And then you go and finish that because burgers are delicious, I'm pretty sure. And your mother gives you a pie and a milkshake to wash everything down. But not everyone gets that. Some people haven't even had a burger in their life. Instead of having a burger, they get this. Some slop from 2009. And some spoiled milk instead of a milkshake. So people from ages 1 to 101 are starving every day. All right, 101 is stressed, but you get the idea. So while you're eating your chips and drinking Starbucks, people are starving. 11.3% of the world's population, to be exact. And 98% of that occurs in developing nations. So if you take those meals from before, the burger and the big breakfast and pizza, you get the opposite end of the spectrum, obesity. Obesity is just the accumulation of body fat within the body. And hunger and obesity can be caused by the same cause. Yes, that makes sense. By the same cause, food insecurity. Food insecurity is just not being able to afford food throughout all of the year. How can that cause obesity? Well, let's say you had that great spoiled milk from before in your house. Well, of course you don't want to drink spoiled milk, so you go out to the store to go buy some milk. But milk is $5, where you can get a 2-pack of 2-liter sodas for $2.50. So that's 8 liters of soda for $5 compared to roughly 4 liters of milk for $5. So from an economical standpoint, you're going to want to take the soda because it's more for less. Well, soda isn't exactly healthy, so you take in more calories and sodium, and if you're not burning it, well, then you're going to accumulate body fat, thus you get obese from not being able to afford food. Now food insecurity can be caused, food insecurity can be prevented with education. Education on how to perform a job and how to farm. In those developing nations, if you teach the people how to farm and then you give them land to farm, well, then you create jobs and you get more food sustainably. If you help make healthier foods cheaper, well, now you get healthy food options for less. So that makes a thing of milk $2.50, the soda still $2.50, so the milk is around, so you get 2 gallons of milk for the same price of 8 liters of soda, which is roughly the same, but milk is healthier for you. You can give, big grower companies can give excess seeds that they didn't use in their farms to give the developing nations to help them sustainably create food. And America can step in and help with all this, but given our small debt of $20 trillion, it might not happen sometime soon. But people can put themselves in the hungry and obese shoes for about 10 years, and they may learn why we need to step in. But 14-year-olds can come up with these solutions. Why hasn't someone done something? The government's helped the developing nations that need our help. Maybe there wouldn't be such high hunger and obesity rates. Vote steady 2044. I'll get stuff done.
Alexa is going to be our next speaker.
DACA, a national debate. 3.6 million. Sounds a lot, right? 3.6 million people are approved for DACA since January 18, 2018. The program, called Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, also known as DACA, should be kept in the United States because it gives kids more opportunities for them to be more successful and it helps the economy. To be qualified for DACA, you must be in the U.S. since 2007, came before 16 years old, and be under 31 years old before June 15, 2012. You also must be attending school, have a high school diploma, or be a military veteran, as well as a mostly clean criminal record. Children that are immigrants should be able to have the same options as we do in America. A recent survey found that after being approved for DACA, 5% of recipients started their own business and 16% bought their home for the first time. As stated in a video called What is DACA by CNN Money and Vanessa Yurkovich. Getting your first home or first job is a big milestone and a moment you'll never forget because it changes your lifestyle as well as not living with your parents nor working for someone else. According to Urban Wire, Immigrants and Immigration by Audrey Singer and Charmaine Runes, it states, another recent study found that 91% of 3,063 DACA recipients surveyed are employed, and 69% of the respondents used DACA to move to a job with better pay. Immigrants that are a part of DACA come to the United States to start a new successful life, which could lead them to be a writer, scientist, or even an inventor. Not only does DACA give kids a chance of having to be more successful, the program also helps the economy. Our economy is very important, and taking away DACA can make us lose way too much money. As stated by John Schoen, the loss of those workers and the paychecks they earn would dampen the American economy, hitting hardest in states like California and Florida, with the largest share of DACA participants, according to groups that support the protection of those immigrants from deportation. From an article called DACA Deportations Could Cost U.S. Economy More Than $400 Billion. Taking away DACA could cause way too many problems. For example, decreasing the population, which could make businesses shut down because of the lack of workers and consumers. Additionally, and importantly, the data showed that at least 72% of the top 25 Fortune 500 companies, including Walmart, Apple, General Motors, Amazon, JP Morgan Chase, Home Depot, and Wells Fargo, among others, employ DACA recipients. All told, these companies account for $2.8 trillion in annual revenue, according to an article called DACA Recipients, Economic and Educational Gains Continue to Grow. This can make businesses go bankrupt. Since we buy so much of companies' products, getting rid of DACA gets rid of thousands of people, meaning they can't buy products from companies. DACA needs to be kept for these very reasons, and we can't have businesses go bankrupt. Though others might think that DACA is unconstitutional because Obama introduced it by executive action and without congressional approval, they also argue that DACA promotes future illegal immigration because it signals if you come here illegally, there are ways to be able to stay. DACA should be kept in the United States because it gives kids a chance at having a better future, and having DACA helps the economy. How would you feel if your family members were entered in DACA and got separated from you for being an immigrant rather than from Mexico or Italy? It wouldn't be nice, would it?
Alexa, next up we have Evan Howard.
Self-driving cars are something that pretty much everybody knows is going to be a mass production thing. They're already somewhere in the world, but only the rich people have them, and that's for a reason. This is the Tesla Roadster. This is coming out in 2020. It's going to have a self-driving mode, which means that you're not going to have to drive it. Teslas of today, known as the Model X, already has self-driving, and it's caused multiple accidents. There's this life hack on YouTube for one of the Teslas where you literally take an orange, put it in the steering wheel, and it makes it so you don't have to have your hands on the steering wheel, which pretty much defeats the purpose of making it so you have to have it on the steering wheel eventually so you don't die, which is what's going to happen if you're not paying attention. Now, Tesla isn't the only company who is working on self-driving cars. There's also Fisker with the Orbit. Now, the Fisker Orbit is basically a bus for yourself. It's self-driving. And it's not going to be a good thing because it's going to take away the jobs of tons of transportation workers, bus drivers, etc. It's just basically going to make it so, people are going to lose their jobs. It's going to ruin the entire economy. Not many people can even afford stuff like this, so where are we going to be? The entire history of the automobile would be pretty much worthless because nobody's going to be driving. There's going to be nothing like car shows or like anything like that, it's just going to be worthless. There's going to be no point in it because there's just going to be probably one mass company making cars, and that would be it. Now, most people, they can afford a normal $20,000 car, average price of today's cars, but on Auto Trader, for a Tesla Model X, the most common self-driving car, you can't find any. And if you do, they're about $100,000. Not many people can afford that, and that means that, well, there's not going to be a real point of them. Now, would you rather be driving something normal like your Toyota Camry? Or would you rather be crashing into a sign like that? I don't think that you want to do that, and I don't think that you want to be driving through a computer because, they have sensitive braking and they can't go around potholes and everything. They're not going to be knowing how to do that. So, yeah, you don't want to die, don't get a self-driving car.
Thank you, Evan. Next up, we have Emily Hope.
Boy.
Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, and really any other social media sites. These support the perfect opportunity for cyberbullying. More than 80% of teens are users of social media and get bullied through the internet every year. In order to reduce the amount of cyberbullying amongst teens, you parents need to revise your teen's phone and limit time on social media. One effect of cyberbullying is the loss of amusement towards school. According to verywell.com, they skip school to avoid facing the bully because they are embarrassed and humiliated on what they said to them. They don't want to go to school, so their grades start to drop and their academic importance does also. Almost every teen who is affected by cyberbullying loses their self-confidence. In the article named, "What are the effects of cyberbullying?" targets of the cyberbullying often begin to doubt their self-worth and value. They respond to these feelings by harming themselves in some way. Once the bully gets inside of the victim's head, they may harm themselves by cutting their wrists or even committing suicide. They feel alone, but that's not the case. The Megan Meyer Foundation stated that 71.8% of teens get bullied once or twice in a school year. Suffering from anxiety and depression is one of the many bad outcomes of social media. According to Sherry Gordon, both children who have done the bullying and those who have been bullied are more likely than other children to suffer from anxiety and depression. So you can see that many people have many different ways of responding to being cyberbullied. Some may say that cyberbullying is a low prevalence phenomenon which has not created any new bullies or new victims over the year. I disagree, and I'm going to tell you why. Cyberbullying has caused many people to make themselves vulnerable and make them want to hurt themselves in some way. Taking a step back, no matter how small the amount, gives the bully more time to hurt the victim even more than they already are. We need to stop cyberbullying because one victim is one too many. In the end, many can see that cyberbullying and social media have a very negative effect on both the victim and society. If you are a victim, there are people out there to help you. Tell an adult, tell your parent, tell a teacher, or even tell a friend. They're all here to help us. If you don't want your child to suffer from all these negative effects of cyberbullying, then limit their time on social media and tell them to share with others. Cyberbullying must stop.
Next up, we have Letitia.
There's an epidemic that will destroy the human race. An epidemic doctors have ignored. This epidemic has only one cure. It is us. Because this epidemic is the beauty industry. There have been many instances where the beauty industry and the media influence us to meet the standards of beauty, which are usually impossible to naturally achieve. These standards that the beauty industry and the media set for us are bad and can have very negative effects on self-esteem and cause eating disorders. We don't need to bend ourselves to fit these negative, nearly impossible standards of beauty when we're already all beautiful. Based upon much evidence, the media and the industry's effect on self-esteem is predominantly negative. For example, Marie Britton states, "It has been found that overall the beauty industry has a negative effect on women's self-esteem, body image, and perception of beauty." One example of the beauty industry's negative effect on women is through models. They set the impossible and fake standard of beauty, making us think we're not pretty enough. Personally, I can say that many times I felt that I was less than the standards, and that beauty was unachievable for me. I even took matters to change the way I dressed and the way I looked. According to social media affect self-esteem, 50% of the tested people have a negative attitude towards their own profiles. Disliking your own profile and the way you look is like disliking your own team or fighting for a cause you don't support. It's a self-contradiction. As a community, we shouldn't feel less than amazing about the way we look because of the fake and unachievable standards of the beauty industry. If you think about it, bullying is by definition forcing, threatening, intimidating, or aggressively dominating others, meaning that the beauty industry and the media are the bullies we've ignored. They intimidate you by making you feel less than you are and damage your self-esteem. This epidemic can actually affect your health in a negative way. The beauty industry and the media can cause eating disorders. For instance, in the text, Eating Disorders and the Role of the Media, it states that because of television exposure, the media, the tested adolescent children exhibited disordered eating habits and behaviors. The results of the tested children show that the media standards do indeed have a negative effect on health and can cause eating disorders. They prove that the standards of the industry and the media are bad, affecting many things negatively. Not to mention, media, body image, and eating disorders states that numerous correlations and experimental studies have linked exposure to thin ideal to body dissatisfaction, internalization of the thin ideal, and disordered eating among women. Underneath all the big words, this just means that many experiments have proven that the impossible ideals we idolize, thanks to the media, have been linked numerous times to eating disorders, leading us to conclude the presented ideals are unsound. We're so careful to cleanse ourselves from even the smallest germs. So why don't we cleanse ourselves from one of the biggest epidemics? We let the viruses of the beauty industry and the media infect us. And even worse, we act as a welcoming host, leaving ourselves open for destruction. Many people already affected by this epidemic will argue that listening to the media and the beauty industry is completely a personal choice. Maybe it is personal. But when a negative voice gets so loud, it's hard to ignore it. When the people we see, speak to, and interact with every day are already infected by this highly contagious epidemic, it's hard not to catch it. Not to mention, peer pressure is a large factor in the beauty scheme. We see it every day in our daily lives. For example, many people know smoking is bad, yet they're pressured into it regardless. We also know that being cool is completely opinionated, yet kids try so hard anyway. Even though we can't prove these things, we see them every day, just like we see the effects of the media and the beauty industry on our society. The beauty industry/media sets standards that are unfit and completely negative. They can degrade your self-esteem and cause eating disorders. We need to stop this epidemic for ourselves, but for the generations to come, so that they can be confident and healthy. No doctors can fix this. Only we can. We must not change in painful and unnecessary ways just to meet these unrealistic standards. We must know our beauty, and we must make this world beautiful once again. Thank you.
We have Skylar Parker.
So, I know what you're expecting. Something like gun control or equality or how to help kids' futures. But instead, I'm going to talk about a different issue. Deforestation. I know what you're thinking. Deforestation, that's so boring and we already know it's a problem. And my response to these thoughts is that, sure, most of you do know it's a problem, and maybe you don't think it's as important as gun safety or equality for the human race. But I'm also sure that most of you don't know how big of a problem this is. I'm pretty sure you also might not know how this could affect us in the future, or maybe you don't even know how to fix it, or try to fix it. That's where I come in. So, deforestation is a big deal. Most of us here know how big a soccer field is, right? Well, we're losing 18.7 million acres of forests each year, which is equivalent to 27 soccer fields every minute. Take a second to think about that. In one passing period, we're losing about 81 soccer fields of our forests. Scientists are estimating that if we continue at this rate, world's rainforests will be completely destroyed in 100 years. Now, one question. How many people in this room breathe air? Raise your hand if you do so. See, whether you raise your hand or not, you breathe, and guess what creates the oxygen we breathe? That's right, plants. So without the plants that live in our forests, we're actually a lot closer to making those sci-fi movies where everyone breathes with a face mask a reality. Now, other than, not breathing, there's plenty more problems this can cause. Like, did you know that 15% of our greenhouse gases come from deforestation alone? So now, on top of the fact that we're slowly depleting ourselves with oxygen, we're also slowly destroying our ozone layer to the point where our planet will be uninhabitable. Another big problem with deforestation is that 80% of our land animals live in forests. Most people have heard the warning, hey, watch for bugs after a big storm comes by, right? Normally this warning comes from your parents or family members because they know that bugs who lose their homes will generally try to take refuge in your home. So, now remember, we're destroying these animals' homes, so the likeliness of them invading ours increases. More reclusive spiders like wolf spiders or brown recluses might take to living in your closets or dark areas of the house. Raccoons might start to find your trash a tad bit more appealing, and other animals might decide to hang out inside or outside your home too. While that by itself is a problem, there's more to it than the creatures just invading. They'll also start to die out. With 80% of our creatures living in forests, 80% more creatures will become subject to extinction or endangerment. Imagine having to grow up without the wonders of the occasional deer standing by the outline of a forest, or a raccoon seen running across the road or standing by the trees. Imagine not knowing what a simple squirrel or bird is because there's no more trees for them to live in. Humans are resilient and stubborn creatures, but we tend to take what we have for granted sometimes. And I know that a few of you are probably thinking, well, it's not my problem, I'm not making it any worse, but the thing is, almost everyone is. How much paper do you use every day? How many pencils are broken and thrown out? How many paper bags have you used and not recycled? Lots of people wouldn't be able to keep track of these things, and I'll admit, I do it all the time too. But now it's time to take action and repay the earth for all it's done for us. Some simple ways to do this are to just recycle your paper. Paper items would be magazines, notebooks, newspapers, and even cardboard. When paper is recycled, it's cleaned to the point of being brand new so it can be reused for more paper products. So if you care enough about our planet, other people's futures, or even just want to prove yourself to the world, help stop deforestation. Thank you.
According to the U.S. Department of Justice, almost 75,000 people every year are convicted of rape in the United States of America. But did these people choose to rape another person? I don't think so, as I don't think human free will exists. More precisely, I don't think humans have the ability to make actions completely independently. But to accurately think about this topic, we need to define two key terms. The first term is determinism. Determinism states, according to the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, is, quote, roughly speaking, the idea that every event is necessitated by antecedent events and conditions together with the laws of nature. So, simply said, determinism means that every event is predetermined. We also need to define free will. Free will, according to the Stanford Encyclopedia, is, quote, a philosophical term of art for a particular sort of capacity of rational agents to choose a course of action from among various alternatives. So, Simply said, humans have the ability to make actions completely independently. But to accurately think about this topic, we need to take a look at the human body itself. Well, we can assume there's some magical force in our bodies that can't be measured. By definition, if it can't be measured, it can't affect anything, unless we discard it and we take you as you seem to be. We need to be able to hear out ideas that might not be popular. Don't cling to ideas, but have them in a bucket separate from you. To always be right, you always need to be open to changing your mind. With that said, let's take a look at a practical example of determinism. We can say that my genetics would affect my personality. We can say that who I meet affects my personality. We can say that what I experience affects my personality. And that my personality affects the actions I take. But if something affects the actions I take, I don't have complete control over said actions, and thus going against our original definition of free will. Now you might be saying to yourself, whoa, I do not submit that what I experience affects my personality. We'll take a look at that. In the study, Mechanisms by Which Childhood Personality Traits Influence Adult Well-Being, they say that, quote, childhood personality traits have been implicated in the attainment of all three components of well-being, and some progress has been made towards identifying mechanisms by which they do so. And that, quote, more conscientious children had better peer relations, and that this association was mediated by these children having fewer externalizing and attentional problems. So we know that at least your childhood experiences affect your personality. But what really is the fundamental difference between your childhood experiences and just the rest of them? I would argue there is no fundamental difference, and thus everything that you experience affects your personality. Now, going back to our original example, what would cause someone to rape another person? Well, we can say that their genetics has some role to play. We can say that what they experience, maybe they grew up in a misogynistic household or an abusive household. Who they met, maybe they met women who they perceived to have harmed them in their life. These small things compound over time, and it's a snowball effect. As the snowball goes down the hill, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and bang, something happens. That could be as big as grating, or as small as picking up a pencil. The point is that all of your actions really are just the culmination of all your previous experiences. Let's say I decide to make a presentation on free will, for example. The cause to that could be the TEDx Corporation you formed. What caused that? And what caused that event? Everything. It's just cause and effect, going backward in time, long before we were even born. And if we're influenced over things we have no control over, we don't act freely. Therefore, we never act freely. Now, the common argument for the idea of free will is the idea of identical twins. How is it that twins with the same exact genetic makeup end up so different by the time they're adults? Well, we know that these twins can't be in the same exact physical location always. They might have to take different classes, not even different courses, just different periods. They end up meeting slightly different people, and their personalities even slightly diverge. And then from there, they end up taking slightly different actions, and they end up experiencing slightly different things, and so on and so forth. By the time they're adults, their personalities have completely snowballed into totally different personalities, just because they're in different periods. Now, you might be left with one question. Well, if my thesis is correct, what are the ethics of this? What are the ethics of locking up people, for which according to me, they had no control over doing? Well, it certainly isn't ethical to lock up people for which they had no control. To have a functioning society, we need to do these things. But we should, at a level we want to be true, dictate what we know to be true. And all the logic, and all the reasoning, and all the evidence shows us that free will does not exist. Thank you.
Imagine a world with only plastic. According to What Happens to All That Plastic by Renee Chow, plastic production has exploded over the last half-century, growing from 16.5 million tons in 1964 to 343 million tons in 2014. Over one-half of that plastic that we produce is single-use. Plastic waste is destroying our environment and habitats on land and in the ocean. We really need to reduce plastic waste because it harms the animals in the ocean, produces nasty chemicals, and you can't store it in landfills. Let's talk about the effect on marine life first. In 2010, a California gray whale washed up on the shores of Puget Sound. Clearwater Action reported that its autopsy indicated that its stomach contained a pair of pants, a golf ball, more than 20 plastic bags, small towels, duct tape, and a pair of surgical gloves. Plastic and other trashes are polluting the water and making animals die. My papa worked as a ranger at Fort DeSoto Park, and he would tell me how sea turtles actually mistake floating plastic bags for jellyfish, which are their main source of food. Unless it is found quickly, it will almost always kill them. Now, hear me out. Renee Chow also says that there is an estimated 165 million tons, that is 330 million pounds of plastic debris floating around in the oceans, threatening the health and safety of marine life. We have to do better than that. This is not fair to our oceans. Another thing that Plastic Oceans Foundation shares is that plastic contain or are formulated with chemicals that are known to be toxic, such as asphalates and BPA, and which cause a broad range of effects, including critical diseases and health conditions. BPA is an endocrine disorder that cause hormone imbalances, issues with the endocrine system, and high blood pressure. Even the chemicals in our bottled water or plastic cups we drink with are toxic and can harm living creatures. There is so much plastic we don't even think about. Our toothpaste containers, baby bottles, toys, anything that has these plastic parts has potential to have these chemicals in it. One more reason to reduce ocean plastic is because Ocean Foundation shares is that plastic one more reason to reduce or reuse plastics because National Geographic states that a whopping 91% of plastic isn't recycled. Of that, 8.3 billion metric tons have been produced. 6.3 billion metric tons become plastic waste. Of that, only 9% has been recycled. The vast majority is accumulating in landfills or sloughing off into the natural environment as litter, meaning at some point, much of it ends up in the ocean, the final sink. We cannot be okay with our entire planet being covered in plastic. We need to realize how much pollution and litter hurts our environment. This isn't just normal pollution. This is man-made pollution that we don't need to make to survive. Plastic does not break down. It also doesn't burn, so they can't put it in the fire. If they do try to burn it, all of those dangerous chemicals I talked about before are being released into the atmosphere as gases we are breathing in. Even with all the reduce, reuse, recycle programs happening in schools, communities, and in every state, statistics show that those production and waste numbers have been increasing rapidly every single year. If we don't act now, that world of plastic I asked you to imagine will be the real deal. We will be swimming with plastic, drinking with plastic, and throwing away plastic. We need to start making big changes in our making and using of plastics. We need to reuse plastic and not throw it into dust. We need to stop single-use plastic in its tracks. Animals are dying. People are getting sick. Our world is filling with plastic waste. Next time you're drinking from that plastic Coke bottle, make sure it goes into the blue bin over there. I'll be watching you.
Martin, and my TEDx is about the LGBT community and their rights. At the end of 2016, only 4% of the population was part of the LGBT community. Now, you may be thinking, wow, that's not a lot of people at all. What's the point of even doing this as a topic? Well, this measly 4% actually equals just about 1.6 million people. The numbers have grown too. Now, according to Samantha Allen, about 25% of the population is LGBT. That's about 10 million people. Over 80% of those people are being discriminated. That's a lot. 30% of heterosexuals believe that homosexuality should be illegal. I disagree. I think that no matter who you are or what your sexuality is, people should be able to express themselves and have the same basic rights. Homosexual people don't want any special privileges. They just want to have the same rights as heterosexuals. Nothing more, nothing less. One of those basic rights is not being punished for being gay. In 72 countries, being gay is illegal. Punishments vary from being imprisoned to being killed. Homosexuals have been stoned, hanged, decapitated, flogged, and given a life sentence. The government isn't helping either. In fact, Indonesia's LGBT community is threatened because the government is trying to make homosexuality illegal there too. These people shouldn't be scared for their lives to express themselves. The LGBT community is also being discriminated because of some religions, such as Islam and Christianity. Stated in an NBC News article, adoption centers run by Christians in Texas are attempting to ban LGBT parents from adopting. These agencies are turning away qualified, loving parents just because their religious beliefs are different. Over 50% of Christians discriminate the LGBT community. In the Bible, God describes homosexuality as unnatural, an abomination, and a great sin against God. However, in Mark 12:31, it says, "Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself." There is none other commandment greater than these. Just because you may not agree with the decisions doesn't mean you have the right to prey upon their rights to life, liberty, and happiness. With the increase in discrimination towards the LGBT community, there's also been an increase in suicide and depression rates. Over 15,000 LGBT students in grades 9th through 12th across the country are being bullied due to their sexual orientation. 74.1% of LGBT students are verbally bullied, 36.2% are physically bullied, and 49% experience cyberbullying. Majority of these students also said their school made no effort to stop the bullying. They don't have a safe place. They go to school, they get bullied, they go home, they get bullied. Over 80% of LGBT students feel unsafe at school. No one deserves to live a life like that, but unfortunately, a lot do. This leads to depression, anxiety, and suicide. According to CNN, about 65% of LGBT students attempt suicide. About 50% also suffer from anxiety, depression, mood disorders, and/or substance disorders. A lot of LGBT youth's home life is also bad. Stated in the True Colors Fund article, how 40% of LGBT youth are homeless. This happens for many reasons, such as they are forced out / ran away, had family issues, aged out of foster care, there's abuse at home, or family poverty. Everyone is different in some way, whether it be gender, race, religion, or sexuality. We are all human. We are all equal. No one should be discriminated because of their preferences.
It always amazes me how these young people can get up here and present in front of others that they don't know, and the topics that they come up with are always wonderful. We're going to let the judges have a few minutes. Yep, you can go. They're going to exit the room and have a discussion around the different presenters, and then they will be back with a decision. Okay? Those who participated, you did a wonderful job, and it was a tough decision based on the rubric even. Like, there's always those instances where we have to think about, they have the same exact score, what do you do type situations, and so, of course, those always happen. Can we recognize each participant with a certificate? So we have Skylar. Is Skylar still here? Thank you.
Stay up here and
Yes.
get a group picture
Oh, yeah.
too.
And then we can announce the winner as well. Emily? Is Emily still here? Kaylin? Is Kaylin still here?
No.
She's on a field trip? Okay. Lewis Cohen? Thank you. Evan? Dylan? Is Dylan Steady still
Dylan
here?
had to leave.
You were on Alexa? Is Alexa still here? Letitia? Chloe? Chloe Mason? Kaori? Okay. All right, and Mr.
All right, so we have all of the contestants that are still here. So I want to congratulate each and every one of you, because all of you are winners just for coming up and getting up in front of people and speaking. Because it's one of the toughest things that a human being can do is speaking in front of others. So congratulations to all of you. Another round of applause. As Ms. Jackson said, this is not an easy task for the judges. I wanted to thank our judges for being here today and taking the time to be a part of this. On May 12th, Saturday, May 12th at River Ridge High School, we will have one person representing our school. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with third place and work our way up to the representative for our school at River Ridge on May 12th. Third place is Lewis Cohen. Second place, we're very pleased with Emily Hoy. And our first place winner, who will be representing our school over at River Ridge on Saturday, May 12th, is Letitia Grad. Once again, congratulations to each and every one of you for the fine job that you did. And congratulations to those who placed today. We will have
First, second,
First-
third certificate for them.
for them, yes, we'll have a separate
We'll make sure
certificate
that
for
you
you
get it.
as well. And are we posting all of these speeches on our website
We are.
as well? So for family members who may not have been able to be here today, we will have those up on our website probably by the end of, today or